Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the 45th episode, the Bob Gibson edition of Half Century of Collecting Sports Cards. Today we're going through number 45 himself, Bob Gibson, all his Topps cards, some history, a little good baseball history, Bob Gibson history. And why was I initially interested in Bob Gibson, his career, him as a person? And it started in second grade. An 8-year-old, we had a class project where we had to write a letter, and I talked about this in one of my earlier videos, to somebody famous. I picked Bob Gibson and Lou Brock. This Bob Gibson is the autograph picture he sent me back from that. Lou Brock did the same, so awful nice of the two of them. Cool picture, cool autograph. And how did I get interested in him in the first place to send that letter to him? I remember listening to my little transistor radio that I bought at a store called Gibson's. It was kind of like the warm Walmart of the times in a small town, not anything close to Walmart. But that's where I got the transistor radio. We listened to games. We got KMOX through from St. Louis all the way to Minnesota. And they must have probably listened to a game that he pitched, talking about his great numbers. I was a numbers guy, probably why I ended up eventually majoring in math and physics for some reason, but loved numbers as a young kid. That's how I learned to divide, was figuring out batting averages and ERAs. And Gibson just kind of epitomized some of those numbers. So here's his rookie card. We'll start with that, the 59 Topps. Picked this card because of that deep, rich pink color. There's some of his cards that have a real dull pink color, but this is one of the brighter pinks. It's got nice corners, fairly decent centering. See the corners there. Closer up, try to get it without the glare. Centering top to bottom, a little off, but not bad. I think this card would grade real well if when I decide to do that. The back of the card's really nice with good centering, real good clarity. Talking about his nickname there being Hoot. And also you can see that at the end he was optioned to Omaha in April. So he didn't start out the 59 season with the Cardinals, but he eventually did come up. And as you can see on his second year card here, his 1960 card. Also a nice card, shows his 59 season there. He did get 76 innings in with a good ERA. Talks about him getting a basketball scholarship to Creighton. So he's a good multi-sport star. Something he did probably even more significantly in that 1960 season was with a couple other very young African-American teammates, Curt Flood and Bill White. They got together and helped integrate people rooming together. So they did that in spring training already of 1960. Prior to that, there really was a total segregation of people that roomed together. But a couple of guys who had really good careers, both on and off the field. Bill White ended up being president of the National League. Curt Flood, guy with Marvin Miller that challenged the reserve clause. He ended up not winning that, but it really got the ball rolling for players not just being bound to one team for the rest of their careers. Led to what we have for free agency today. There's his 61 card. Nice close-up pose. So he had a little rougher 1960 season. But also on there it talks about him playing with the Globetrotters. So not only scholarship to Creighton, but he played with these guys. It's Curly in the middle, Meadowlark, Goose Tatum there at the top, who also played some Major League Baseball, or Negro League Baseball, which is Major League Baseball. Then we got his 62 card, which is my only graded card, 6.5, and I think that's a pretty nice card. 62 is a year like 71. That's real tough to get good on the corners, and centering is really tough in 62. But there it shows 61 season, first year over 200 innings. He led the league in walks, 119. Talks about the Globetrotter career again. And we get to his 63 card, another close-up. Shows the 62 year, then ERA in the twos. And then we get his 64. And 64 was a big year for the Cardinals. They were in third place coming into September, and then they did this big surge at a 10-game winning streak. Gibson won 19 games that year, and they ended up beating the Phillies, who were way out in front with just like 2 weeks to go. Phillies lost 9 in a row. These guys won 10 in a row. Gibson pitched on the last game of the season. He went 4 innings in relief in that game on short rest. Because of that, though, he wasn't able to start game 1 of the World Series, but they ended up playing the Yankees, and to keep them loose, this is where Bob Uecker in the 64 World Series went out to shag fly balls in batting practice with a tuba and caught a few fly balls actually in his tuba. Kept him loose, so he may not have been a great player, but he knew how to keep players loose. You can see his this is a 65 World Series card. Gibson lost his first game that he pitched, but then he won games 5 and then short rest game 7. He was pitching at the time against Mel Stottlemyre, who was a young phenom. Just came up midway through the 64 season, but that's who he beat in game 7. Then we got his 65 card. First year that Gibson won 20 games. His strikeout totals are going up. ERAs are going down. He pitched in the All-Star game, actually closed out the All-Star game. His catcher at the time was Joe Torre in that All-Star game. And Gibson closes out. Torre comes out to congratulate him, and Gibson just walks right by him. Gibson had this reputation of not wanting to fraternize with any non-Cardinals, and Torre was a non-Cardinal, so he just wanted to talk to his teammates and kind of keep his secrets that way. And you know, off the field he was a great guy, but on the field he had this reputation of being pretty tough. His catcher at the time, Tim McCarver, it's one story that McCarver came out to the mound, and Gibson's like, "What are you doing out here? You don't know anything about pitching. The only thing you know about pitching is how not to hit it." So here's Gibson's 66 card, coming off another 20-win season. See his inning totals going up, 299, strikeouts 270 there in 65. Had a really good 66 season. And then his 77 card. Now this one is maybe my favorite card. I just love the color on that 67 card. Pops with the big picture. Kind of, for me, rivals the 59. It's my favorite Gibson cards. 67, he was rolling along, having another great year, when all of a sudden this guy comes to bat, hits a line drive, boom, right off his lower leg. Gibson kind of brushes it off to start out, but then 3 batters later, here's a crack, and found out later the leg was broken. He missed most of the rest of the regular season, but came back to pitch in the World Series as the Cardinals won the NL pennant again, and probably had one of the greatest World Series ever. It was his second straight World Series that he pitched in that he was the MVP of the series. He won all 3 games, including Game 7 against the phenom of the Red Sox at the time, Jim Longberg. Longberg was coming on short rest. He'd pitched Game 5 and also pitched that Game 7, and Gibson out-pitches him, wins Game 7. Then we get to 68 cards, and this is showing that 67 World Series. And here is the 68 Gibson of maybe the greatest year a pitcher has ever had. This is the year he's also an All-Star. He has an ERA of 1.12, which is unheard of. The only ERAs in the 1900s, 2000s better than that belonged to Dutch Leonard, who had, it was like 1914, had a 0.96 ERA, and I don't have a Dutch Leonard card to show. And then the only other one better, Mordecai Brown, with an ERA in the 1.0s. And this is actually, I was just doing my SGC reveal. This is one that I haven't shown yet. I've got another SGC or two reveals to show. This was one of the cards I sent. It's a T205 that got graded to 3.5. I thought it was a pretty cool card. T205s in general are cool cards. The first ones really that talk decent amount about the player on the back. It had nice corners, but 3.5 on that card I thought was pretty cool. They get to the World Series, and game one, well actually I'm going to even say this before we get to the World Series. Regular season, so who do you think is the only other player, or the next best ERA, I guess, since the dead ball era, so since like 1920 for ERA? And I was thinking it might be, but when I looked it up, it actually was, and a little surprised, it was Doc Gooden. So Doc Gooden in 1985, this year, this is 84 traded, before that his rookie, but he was 19 that year, only 20 in 1985, and he ended up with a 150, it was a 154 ERA. So that's the next best ERA, and it's the highest WAR season ever since the dead ball era, since basically the end of World War I. He had 13.2 WAR that season. Gibson had 11.2 or 11.70 WAR, somewhere in that range, in 1968, which is phenomenal as well. And you think of like Shohei Ohtani this year had 10 WAR. That was combined as a pitcher and a hitter. He got 6 as a hitter and 4 as a pitcher. Gibson's was all as a pitcher. Although you think he was a good hitter as well. He ended up with 24 career home runs, had a couple years of 5 home runs. He got to pinch hit a fair amount in his career, including for guys like Dal Maxville, who was a weak hitting shortstop. And he won, I don't know if he won a Silver Slugger, if they were even giving it for pitchers at the time. He won 9 Gold Gloves, so he was one heck of a fielder. But then they keep going here with the 68 season. So not only the great regular season, but in game 1, he comes through with 17 strikeouts. So that is the new World Series record. Well, beats Sandy Koufax's old record, and I had Koufax out here, but I guess I must have left it behind. So 63, Koufax had 15 strikeouts. Gibson's record of 17 still stands, so that's the most strikeouts anybody's ever had in a World Series game. He threw game 1 against the 30-game winner in the American League that year, Denny McLain, and he beat him. He also beat him the very next game. Oh, here's the Koufax. So this is the guy's record that Gibson broke. Sandy Koufax, who had 15 and 63. Gibson also pitched and won game 4. And then game 7, they decided not to go with Denny McLain because they thought his arm was looking a little tired. Probably was. They went with the guy who won game 2 and 5 for Detroit, and that was Mickey Lolich. So Lolich pitches game 7 against Gibson, and Lolich outpitched him. It's the only other World Series game that Gibson lost. So he was 7-2 career in World Series, lost his very first and very last start. But then that was the game winner for the Tigers, who won the 68 World Series. So we go to 1969. Actually, even before we get to 69, a little more about that 68 season. One other thing I just wanted to say is his unbelievable innings per game started. So he pitched 34 games, started them all, and he threw almost 305, and he was 304 2/3 innings. So that's 1 1/3 innings short of averaging exactly 9 innings a game. I think that might almost be more incredible than the 1.12 ERA. And then the thing was, he did it again the next year. So in 69, he was only 1 inning short, 35 games. He was 1 inning short of averaging 9 innings a game. Each year there, he completed 28 games, which is unreal. Somehow he lost 9 games that year. He was 22-9. A couple 1-0 losses. One of them was when Gaylord Perry no-hit the Cardinals. And the one run happened when this guy, who hardly hit any home runs, Ron Hunt, homered off of Gibson. But now we get to 1969. And there's the 69 card. I'm actually going to put these non-regular cards off so we just get the main cards of Gibson in here. Bunch them a little better. 69, I think, is another one of the cooler Gibson cards. He had another awesome year in 69. That 68, 69, 70 seasons were unreal. And then he gets on these league leader cards. Two of them he led the league in ERA and strikeouts. You can see the wins leaders. That's a cool card. 3 Hall of Famers there: Marichal, Gibson, and Fergie Jenkins. And there's his 69 All-Star card. And then we come to the 1970 card. 1970, Bob Gibson wins another Cy Young. It's his 5th year of winning 20 or more games. He was 23-7 that year. I think that's a cool card too. Just lots of neat color. He's becoming more known as this intimidator. I mean, he kind of has been known that all the way through his career, but it seems like this part of his career, he really was getting known for throwing at people or towards people. But even though he had that reputation, he only had 2/3 as many career hit by pitches as this guy, Don Drysdale. Drysdale hit a lot more pitches. Gibson never led the league in hit by pitches. Drysdale did multiple times. But and Gibson was a really nice guy off the field, even though he had that reputation. And we get to his 71 card, which is his only in-action card. I like that card as well. Mike Shannon there playing third base in the background, kind of getting up there to the mound, ready to pitch and probably strike another somebody out. There's a league leader card that he was on in 71. And then we come to his 1972 card, getting late in his career, but he's still actually really good at this time. That's maybe about where I first start hearing of him. Then we get to 1973, the first year I bought baseball cards as a 8-year-old kid. And this, I still remember having this card as a kid. This was my original Gibson that I got out of a 10-cent wax pack at the time. You can see the cards are pretty beat up because we love to play with them. Got a nice little crease in there, but we played games and we wrote on them. I have no idea why it says 71 on his cap and 11 on his back. Look at that, he was a commentator for basketball as well on TV. Still won 19 games there. 1911, 72 with a 2.40 some ERA, so still really good. And then we get to his 74 card. 74 was the season he struck out his 3,000th batter, and that was Cesar Geronimo. He's only the second player in Major League history to end up with 3,000 strikeouts. The first being Walter Johnson. You can see Johnson's Mecca doubleheader card. This is another one of those that I sent to grading. So I'll have to put that in an SGC reveal. I got a 3. I think that's a pretty decent grade for a card that old, that was a little worn. It's actually even got a little, like, right in there, a little tear. There's a natural crease there for these cards that get, you know, kind of bent to double up, as you can see the top, and then use that bottom. But that actually got a crease, but or a little tear, but I still got a 3 out of the card, so I thought that was pretty nice. And then we get to his last season, 1975. Shows a highlight card there of his 3,000 strikeout. Last card. So overall, you get a picture of all the Bob Gibsons from 59 to 75. I would have loved to have him show this pose on one of his pictures. I had this from a World Series history book. If he would have had a card with that picture, that would have been my favorite. That's his patented fall to first follow through. But great pitcher, fastball pitcher, slider, and a cool person to go with it. So that's all I've got for today. Thank you for watching. We'll get back to my favorite 400 on the next episode, and then we'll get through another SGC reveal. Did that 71s on the last one. But thank you for watching.